In today's Leeds news, transfer state of play. Torino and others make move for Perri. Byram's Leeds career appears to have ended, and rumour mill stories on Titraoui. Thursday, the 30th of July, Jer here at the Leeds View, which is daily Leeds United news. We do these on Monday to Friday, as well as a transfer wrap up at the weekend, and all going well, 2 podcasts over the course of the week. We're available on YouTube as well as on all of your audio platforms. If you want to support the channel, best way to do so is liking and subscribing to the channel or giving us a follow and channel rating over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can do all that if you want to. Also, we're backed by Fanatics and our official partnership with them and Leeds United. If you want to get your hands on a new coaching jacket or classic coach jacket that's available, links for that are down below in the description. There's a little bit of stuff to talk about today. It's relatively quiet. Well, it's a busy day in the rest of the footballing world with UEFA meeting to discuss FIFA's plans to commercialise the World Cup, as well as Eddie Howe losing his job at Newcastle, which is interesting considering the summer that they've had and a lot of upheaval in the clubs that were down there around us last season, but we seem to be just pushing ahead but getting our stuff done. We have got some updates on the transfer state of play and where Leeds are on lots of targets, as well as some interesting ones popping up towards the back end of the video in the rumour mill section. But we'll start today on the overall transfer situation for Leeds United. So loads of names floating around, and we've got some big picture updates from Graham Smith yesterday heading in towards the weekend. And a bit more clarity. So once the James Trafford deal gets over the line, and he's in a similar position that we had with Harry Wilson, where everything is agreed, but he's on his holidays, so until he comes back in, signs his deal and gets his media and medical work done, still up in the air for now. Too far away, but it's getting closer and closer to being done. If some reports are to be believed, he could be even flying into Leeds today to do his stuff and then head back off on holiday, of which I believe he has until the 9th of August, so 10 days left on his holiday as the mandated FIFA break after a World Cup. Once that's done though, Leeds are expected to move for a backup goalkeeper as well as a new striker and cover in the left back position. And that seems to be everything Leeds are looking to do. And if they can get the right profile of central midfielder, they might make a move for there as well. And again, seeing as what they did with Shea Charles, you would imagine that's somewhere on the shopping list. There's a couple of names that came out over the last few days, and we've gotten the update from Graham Smith. The first one to talk about is Carlos Espí. Now, Graham has reiterated that Leeds have admiration for the striker and has confirmed the interest in him as genuine. He would be seen as the type of striker Leeds are looking for to give competition to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Big physical lad, target man, much younger player, and would add long-term competition there. But Graham does point out that Leeds still haven't made a move. Now, for me, this still goes back to the Tariq Muharramovic situation a few weeks back, where Leeds are maybe trying to manage the narrative on this one so that the deal doesn't get hijacked. And we said yesterday, lots of clubs in the mix, and someone apparently is making the move to pay the release clause. Fingers crossed it's Leeds United. If you've looked at his stuff online, he's an interesting striker. He definitely fits the profile, very tidy on the ball, gets in very good positions as well. The other name that was released yesterday to him, pretty much unanimous negative opinion in the comment section, was Liam Delap. And Graham's been very direct on this one. Leeds United have no interest in Liam Delap. He is not a player they are looking at, and reports of an interest in him are wide of the mark. Likely looks like agent talk to try and drum up some interest in a player who doesn't appear to have any kind of a short-term future, at least with Chelsea. Shea Charles is the other one to talk about. No movement on that transfer. He was left out of Southampton's side for their game against Paderborn. Southampton haven't accepted the last offer that Leeds have put in, which is Leeds' final offer. Leeds said they will leave it on the table if Southampton want to come back to it at any point that they can. Leeds have said they've moved on to look at other targets. So this one appears to be, at least for right now, dead. Leeds will look at another midfielder if they can get the right profile. Julian Brandt is the next one. And again, mixed reports on this one from what was put out yesterday. Smith said Leeds have still got their offer on the table, but he's very cautious in the language that he's used around the Real Sociedad link. Graham has pretty much pointed out that this story originated on X, and none of the major outlets in San Sebastian have picked up this story, which means that there's probably a lot less credibility to that story than initially was made out. Context on this one is key. Sociedad have plenty of players in those attacking midfield areas. And Brandt would likely be going into his team with plenty of competition next season. Now, obviously, they've got the European football card, should he decide to make that move and try and compete for that position. He is expected to make his decision on his future in the next couple of days. Now, lots of people have talked about this, about if he doesn't want to come, then move on. He's taking too long, all that kind of stuff. Well, I sit very much on this one of give him as much time as he needs, because this is likely the last major contract that he's going to get in his career. And it's understandable that he would try and weigh up his options. If you can get a player of his quality for free, I think you should wait. That's being completely honest. If you're getting positive signals from him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin didn't come into Leeds till right before the start of the season. I think he got involved in the first game in the game against Sheffield Wednesday in the Cup. And look at the impact he had over the course of the season. So if you can get that quality in for nothing, maybe you should hold on a little bit. But he is expected to make his decision very soon on this. And fingers crossed, it's favourable to Leeds. Largi Ramazani's situation has also been addressed by Graham, and he says that Valencia's valuation is still well short of Leeds United's valuations, but there is some belief that the two sides will likely meet in the middle, and a distinct possibility that Ramazani still could end up heading back to Valencia next season, or this season coming. So, striker confirmation in Espí. We'll see if that's actually movement. Seems unlikely that Leeds are interested in him and he's one of their targets, but they haven't made a move on him yet. That seems unlikely. Julian Brandt will find it very soon. Shea Charles, dead, and nothing in the Liam Delap situation. Move on. So we've all been under the impression that Lucas Perri is off to Torino, and that may end up being the case, but not necessarily the only option that is there. Isaac Johnson in Leeds Live says that Torino have made their formal move for Lucas Perri, but they're not the only clubs keeping an eye on his situation. Torino's formal offer for Lucas Perri has gone in, and it's a loan with a buy option at the end of the deal. We'll see how it goes. He's their primary target this summer, but Leeds won't release Perri until James Trafford comes in the door. And again, as I say, until James Trafford signs the contract, not a done deal and not just yet. So anything can happen, at least in that situation. Other sides are believed to be keeping an eye on the situation as well, although those sides haven't been named on this, just that there is potential interest from other clubs in Lucas Perri as well. But the situation will likely speed up once the James Trafford situation has been sorted. And if he does fly into Leeds today, there is a flight from the Bahamas. I don't know if he was on holiday in the Bahamas, but if he has flown into Leeds to get that done, then we could be seeing that done this evening. Fingers crossed. If not, it'll be done whenever it's done. Let's move on. Isaac Johnson at Leeds Live also has a piece looking at Sam Byram's situation and the silence since the news came out with the retained list that Leeds United had offered Sam Byram a new deal at the club. I stopped short of saying an improved deal because we don't know what the context of that deal actually was. But at the end of last season, Sam Byram did speak to the official Leeds United podcast, and at that time he said that he still felt that he had something that he could offer on the football field, and he wanted to play as much football coming into the new season as he could, which then likely made it appear that would likely be elsewhere because he played a handful of minutes last season for Leeds United in the Premier League and in the Cups. Now, Johnson points out that Sam is likely third or fourth choice in the fullback positions. You've got James Justin, you've got Gabby Goodmunson, Jaden Bogle, and now Jaden Lena, who's off with the first team in training right now. And Alfie Creswell has also been training with the side and playing in a three-man defence. So there's likely more competition in those positions right now. And also Leeds did opt to play Dan James at right wing back at the end of last season against Spurs instead of Sam Byram, and he plays there for Wales. So you could be looking at a long-term position for Dan James at Leeds should he stay at Leeds as a right wing back option. All of that makes it seem that Sam Byram's time at Leeds United has come to an end. No updates on a contract being signed. No update on where he is. He's not with the Leeds United squad. There's no reports to say that he's training at Thorpe Arch. So he might be exploring his options elsewhere. Now, Leeds won't likely make an announcement about Sam Byram's future or saying thank you or goodbye to him until he has sorted out his future, until he signs for another club or he decides to take the Leeds offer. And again, we don't know what role he was offered at Leeds or the capacity of that deal. So it could be a player coach, it could be involved with just being part of the squad. And Leeds also don't really need Sam Byram next season as a homegrown player. The fact they brought in James Trafford and Harry Wilson ticks that box for them as well. So it does appear, at least very quietly, that Sam Byram's time at Leeds United is or has come to an end. And I'm just delighted that I got to see Sam Byram play in a Leeds United shirt in the Premier League. I have a lot of time for Sam Byram. I love his attitude. I think it's been excellent during his time at Leeds United. He's an academy kid. He's a Leeds lad that came through the club and finally got to play in the Premier League and pick up a championship trophy for the club as well. So yeah, it was sad to see him go, but you know, he's coming towards the back end of his career and he's not been playing a huge amount for Leeds. So yeah, likely seeing the end of Sam Byram's time at Leeds. Let's move on. We'll jump into some rumour mill territory and an interesting one that's popped up again and a returning name in Yacine Titraoui. Central midfielder, plays for Charleroi in the Belgian Pro League. Central midfielder, 35 Belgian Pro League games last season, 5 goals and 1 assist, and was at the World Cup with Algeria as well. He was linked with Leeds United back at the start of this summer's transfer window, and his name has popped up again. We're talking about a pretty tidy central midfielder here, primarily a central defensive midfielder. He's got a 90% passing accuracy within his own half, 82% in the opposition half, which is not bad at all. And he wins about 60% of his ground duels, 54-ish% of his overall duels. So tidy central midfielder. Reports suggest that Leeds still may have some interest in Yacine Titraoui after being linked with him earlier in the summer. Olympiacos were believed to have already had a deal done with Charleroi for the player, but the player rejected that move, and it might open the door for Leeds United to make a move for him. Now, Sunderland were also linked with keeping an eye on him earlier this month as well, but that hasn't materialised in a physical offer, at least yet. Now, the fee for him is rumoured to be in and around £10 million, which would be significantly less than Leeds have put on the table for a Shea Charles, and there are some similarities between the two. But taking the reports on the continent out of the equation, the Daily Mail did report on this back in June, and they at the time said that Titraoui was a player that was on Leeds United's shortlist, and there was at the very minimum some interest in him at that point. And he does fit the bill in a lot of ways, not every way, but in a lot of ways, with what Shea Charles would have brought. 22 years of age, so younger profile of player, central midfielder, primarily a central defensive midfielder, number 6, but can also do the box-to-box stuff. He is slightly shorter than Shea Charles at 5'7", but there are attributes that are very similar there. And as I say, he's just back from the World Cup, and Leeds have said some of their targets this summer were at the World Cup, so maybe there's something to read into that. Maybe there's not, but we'll see. As I say, central defensive midfielder, and Leeds have looked at that profile this summer, looking improve that position. But he's also described as a deep line playmaker, somebody that can get moves going from the back, and Leeds might need that as well. And Daniel Farke, if he does decide to revert to his 4-2-3-1 or his 4-3-3 system, will want someone who can retain possession quite strongly and be a playmaker in the defensive areas to allow his centre-backs to split as he's done before. In terms of the profile of the player, he's a very strong ball-winning midfielder. He's very technical on the ball. His defensive work rate is very, very high, so his defensive actions in the Belgian Pro League would have put him ahead of 75% of the midfielders in the division last season, which is really, really good. And as I say, technically very good on the ball. In terms of characteristics with Shea Charles would be described as a more physically dominant player, but Titraoui is being described as kind of a faster, more mobile central defensive midfielder, very strong positionally, good in possession, all attributes that Daniel Farke does like in a central midfielder. You're thinking of an Ilya Grove from a positioning perspective, but maybe an Ethan Ampadu from a distribution perspective, so you're getting a more hybrid player there. And it does feel like Leeds are trying to look at that position, but again, 10 million quid would be significantly cheaper than Shea Charles. But the big question would always be, can a player adapt from the Belgian Pro League to playing in the Premier League? Same question would be there for Shea Charles, stepping up from the Championship, but a bit more used to English football than a player coming in from the continent. But one to keep an eye on, it is more continent rumours, at least at this moment in time. But going back to the Mail's shortlist, he was on the Leeds shortlist at one point. We'll see if it develops into anything over the next week or so, well, next couple of weeks. And we'll see how Leeds get on with that central midfield. And I don't think Leeds will move for anybody in that central midfield position unless they can get someone who does fit the profile of exactly what they're looking for there. Otherwise, I think they'll probably go with what they've got. Anyway, folks, that'll be it for me today. Anything that happens on James Trafford today, we will have something out tonight. We'll have the news in the morning and a transfer wrap-up at the weekend again as well. If you want to support the channel, you can like and subscribe. There's a little button over there. And the links for the FCA awards are down below. They close in 6 days' time, 6-ish days' time. And click on that if you want it as well. I'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.